In this video, we talk about your NAS, network access storage, or your external storage, or device that keeps disconnecting. In my case, I was dealing with My Cloud EX2Ultra from WD, that's Western Digital. And because it kept disconnecting, we wanted to take the drives out and toss the device out the window. But calmer minds prevailed, and we figured out how to fix it. This video will discuss those resolution strategies. It is very likely that resolution 1 will work for most people, but in the event something else is going on, we have listed out a number of other resolution strategies that are more general that may be of assistance to you as well. As always, the write-up is on the blog post. See the description for more details. So let's get into it. Go to the device you're working with. In my case, it's the WD My Cloud EX2Ultra NAS storage device. NAS stands for Network Access Storage. So open up a web page and type in the device address. In my case, it will be http://mycloudx2ultra.local/. Alternatively, I could have typed in the IP address of the device if I so knew it. But the DNS name is better because if the IP address changes, this will get you there. So once I type it in, it takes me to the home page of the device. This is what the device looks like. It has 2 hard drives in there. Each one is in a RAID configuration and is backing up the exact same data on both devices. So if one hard drive crashes, the other hard drive will still have the data. I just need to verify often that they're in good health, and the way I can do that is by going to storage, disk status, and I'm using RAID 1, which is taking complete duplication of each drive. You can also stripe the drive across multiple drives or whatnot, but for me, RAID 1 works the best. I also have auto rebuild on, so what this does is if one of my drive crashes, I order a new hard drive of the exact same size as its paired drive, take out the old one, put the new one in, and it will detect the drive. If I come in here, it will correct it. After around 6 or 7 years, I did have to do that one time. I'm thankful I had 2 drives. One of them went bad, one of them was still good. Now I have 2 good drives. When the next one goes bad, probably another 7 to maybe 9, 10 years, I will replace that as well, if I don't run out of space by then. And then I will upgrade the drives as necessary. But I digress. What you need to do is go to disk status from time to time, and you can see the LED indicators on your drive as well. If they're turned to red or blinking red, you know you have a problem. What I'm looking for here is status is good. When my drive had gone bad, the status was degraded. And the resolution to that is popping in a new drive. I did fully shut down my drive, take everything off, and do it, or do the replacement. When you do the replacement, be very careful to ground yourself so you do not cause static electricity to flow through, especially the good flowing drive or your new replacement drive. So check that from time to time, make sure it's good. Obviously, the redundancy is what I'm after. Why do I have a NAS in the first place? Because my alternative solution is use like Amazon Cloud Storage or Google Cloud Storage and pay them a monthly charge. I'd rather keep that on premises and uh, keep that charge to a bare minimum as opposed to having a monthly reoccurring charge. But to each their own. Google and Amazon would likely do a much better job of redundancy and massive redundancy than what a consumer-based product could do. So if it's an emergency, do perhaps use those, or use those in conjunction if you only need a small amount of storage. So out of the 8 terabytes I have total on 2 drives, 4 terabytes each, only 4 terabytes get used up on each. So each is using 4 terabytes. I'm not using 8 terabytes together. So I lose half the space basically, but I gain the redundancy that I want. So let's get to the problem. Click on Settings, Network, and here you'd want to set your static IP address. For my IPv6, I have it turned off. For my IPv4, I have it set to static instead of DHCP. DHCP stands for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. It's where every 24 hours or whatnot, your router reassigns an IP address to whatever device is calling it. So you have a range in your router, and I'll show you that in a bit, of perhaps 192.168.1 to 1.0 to 192.168.1.100. So maybe you have 100 devices you can put on there at a given time. You need to pick a number in that router pool that you can set as a static reserved IP address for your NAS storage or your device. So every time your device tries to connect to it, it doesn't disconnect or try to pull a new address. In my case, I had a very specific problem. Years ago, I did set an IP address of 192.168.1 point something to my NAS, this drive. But at some point, the reserved address, the same address I reserved on the router settings, got lost, and the router was dynamically assigning this device the address over and over again. Because this device always tried to get that address, it would keep getting disconnected. But either way, there was not parity. All you need to do is have parity between the two. So to do that here, you would click on static, you'd agree to this, and you would tell it the static IP address. You tell it your subnet mask, your IP gateway IP address, your DNS. And all of that information you can gain from going into your router settings. Otherwise, in command prompt, you can likely type in ipconfig-all, I believe. So I already have it set to an IP address that I want. Let's go to my router settings, log into my router. In my case, I'm using a Linksys router, and I'm going into the smart Wi-Fi controls. Then go into connectivity. And here go into local network. From there, go to DHCP reservations. Here you can see your start IP address and your ending IP address. I suppose you can expand that range as well, and whatnot. And when your device interface page was asking for DNS, it was not asking for external DNS. It was asking for your local DNS, which is likely something like 192.168.1.1. And the subnet mask is probably 255.255.255.0. But again, you'll find that in your router settings. Here, click on DHCP reservations and click on manually add device reservations. Give the device the name of the device that you want and the IP address that you want, the same one you want to give it to in the device interface page. And go back to that device interface page and get the MAC address of that device and save your changes. Remember to save, and then go all the way to the bottom and save again. So once you have that, and once you save on the bottom, your router will restart, and any device that got the address that you wanted will be taken off from that DHCP address, and this device will be given that static address. And that should be able to resolve your problem quite effectively and efficiently. Now let's talk a little bit about other scenarios. A very important thing not to overlook is the firmware update. A lot of problems can be resolved because the manufacturer discovers a bug in the system and resolves it through a firmware update. So go to your device and click on firmware update. In my case, I always click enable auto updates and let it update every time. It's also very important to go to your router and enable auto updates there as well. So don't just do it here, also do it there, so they're both in sync and they're both updating. And this may be the solution to your problem if your manufacturer has already resolved the issue. You should also check your date and time of your router. So when you're in those router settings, check the date and time. Make sure you're in the right time zone and the date and time is exactly what you're expecting. Now go back to the interface page of the device in question and check that there is no mismatch between the router time that's expected and the time that's expected here. If you're not in sync, you're going to be creating your own problem. Next, let's do some basics that should already be done, but check your Ethernet cable. Maybe the cable went bad that was connecting from your router to your device. If that doesn't work, power cycle your router, your Wi-Fi extender, your device, and everything else that's connected to it. If you're dealing with a Windows-based device, sometimes Windows doesn't accept reserved IP addresses. So you might need to check on that and see what happens when you set it to a dynamic IP. And then you have to work through the problem. By then you should hopefully be coming across a solution. If you're not, then you need to start looking at the logs, your logs for your device as well as logs for your router, and see what it's complaining about, if there is a complaint. And then if all else fails, contact the device manufacturer first, then contact the router manufacturer, see if you can work through them, and if that doesn't work, post on bulletin boards and see if you can make any headway. But I do believe setting the static IP address will help you greatly. If this video was helpful, please remember to like, subscribe, comment, and ring that notification bell. See you in the next one.